Hidden gems in your Snap-on scan tool. So we're going to go through a ton of different miscellaneous things. We're going to go back and forth. I'm going to try and keep it maybe building through. Here's some stuff that all the tools can do all the way through, some of the other tools, and there's differences between the tools. So we're going to talk about it. Maybe there's some things you forgot were there. Maybe there's some things you never even knew that were there. So we're going to talk through all of that. So first segment is going to be the common features. So this would be common across pretty much all our tools. Any of our current tools that can currently be updated, let's put it that way. So common features, this could be behind that as well, but these will just cover the common features on those tools. And one of them is going to be custom data lists, right? So we have 200, 300, 400, 500 different data PIDs that could be across a vehicle. I only want to look at 5 or 6 of them maybe, but also maybe they could be, well, a couple of them could be in this list, one could be in this list, one could be in that list. So in the past couple of years, we've actually added the function. Not only can you customize your data list, which speeds up data acquirement, but also on certain brands of vehicles that support it, we are able to build across lists as well. So I got a screen on the next screen that'll show you which brands that covers, but we're going to walk through live how to do that here in a minute. So that is just one exclusive that we have, and we've had that for a very long time, but I don't know if everybody's aware that that's a thing that can be done, because we have all these other ways to automate it nowadays, but that's one thing. So custom data list across lists as well. So multiple makes support that. So Acura, BMW, Chrysler, Dodge, Ford, Honda, Jeep, Lexus, Mazda, Mercedes-Benz, Nissan, Ram, Science, Subaru, and Toyota, as far as I'm aware. There may be a few others in there, and if you go into custom data lists, it'll just pop up with multiple lists, so you'd be able to see it there anyway. Another nice thing that we do with data that I think is kind of a hidden gem there as well is PID triggers. So PID triggers is basically you set a minimum and maximum value on a PID that you want to watch. And if that PID ever goes outside of that minimum or maximum, then it is going to flag it, and it's going to put a red line in it, and it's going to save the data up until that point and a little bit past that point. So you can see what was going on, cause and effect. So in this case, we see on the screen, I got the magenta lines top and bottom, and then we have a blue flag. On the newer tools, it's going to show flags. On the older tools, it just kind of shows the lines there, doesn't show the flags. But it's going to go across, and then once it breaches that maximum, like it's done right over here, it's going to record for a few more frames, and then the flag is going to turn red, and then we'll see we get a red line there. And then we'll see on all the other PIDs, we get a green line that shows, well, here's where it went out. This indicates that it has gone out. And then also we will see this gray line right here, which is how far it recorded until it's saved. So it will continue to record and then save and then continue to record after that even. So I could do another manual save event with that. So these work across all of our tools since a very long time ago. Or custom data list, I think probably back in the original Modus days, early 2000s, I believe, is when that really came in. So it's been around for a while. If you have a Snap-on scan tool in the last 20 years, it probably has it on there. There's a couple different ways to go about it, but we're going to talk through how to do one right now with my Solus Plus here. So let's get that up on the screen. Where is it? There it is. All right. So I have my Solus Plus, and of course, to access this is PID data, so we need to go through the scanner. And for this purpose, I'm just going to choose our little Tahoe here. Actually, no, I'm going to choose Toyota. Let's choose the Camry, mix it up a little bit. 2016 Camry with a 2.5. And then we'll just go into engine, because we don't really have to do anything else. We want to work with the data. So we'll go into engine. And then we see data display down here. Third one down. Choose that. And then in this case, we'll just go into engine data 1. There's a bunch of different lists that we could choose from. And you can see there's a custom list there from when I was setting this up beforehand. But so there is my data. Now, if I want to change this to look at graphs, I can go up here on the top. Looks like an 88 over squiggly line. And I can change it to 4 graphs on the screen. That makes it a little bit easier for me. And then we can see how it's kind of going up and down there. Now, what if I wanted to customize this list? So I can go over here to the check mark. And that is going to go through all the different lists. And it's going to tell me, okay, so here's engine data 1, and I have 100 things on that list. And then here's all my other lists down below. So if I deselect that, it says, well, I don't have anything. I'm going to go over here. Engine speed, maybe calculate load percentage, vehicle load, and mass airflow. Up here. And let's say I wanted to do like throttle control system data. So I'll do, oops, that selected all. So let's say I wanted to do like, I don't know, accelerator position sensor and the accelerator pedal. And then maybe the throttle sensor percentage as well. Go up there. So I've selected a few different PIDs. Looks like 4 and 4 on each. And if I hit the check mark up here on the corner, got to hit the check mark, otherwise it doesn't save it. Come in here, and now it starts over, but then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 PIDs, right? Instead of my list of 100 PIDs that I had before that I would have had to cycle through. Now, let's say I wanted to set a trigger on this engine speed, or let's do the mass airflow sensor. Say I'm looking for a mass airflow for the grams per second to drop out or something. So you can see it's going from 0 to 498. So I'm just going to select that one. And then we would go up to this one, which looks like a line above and a line below the squiggly. Go over there. Going to go to set trigger. And then we can see there's the height right there. So I'm going to set this down to that 498. Oops, that's too high. Other way. There we go. Set that to that 498. So the next time it triggers, that'll happen. I continue again. It's going to have us set the minimum. I continue again. And then you can see those gray lines going across, right? So there's my minimum. There's my maximum. Now I'm going to wait till it goes down to arm them. Okay, there it is. Go back up here, go to arm, and then they turn magenta. That's going to go. It's going to cross the threshold. And I don't know if you could hear that beep, but it beeped. And then it showed the red line. So there's my red line. There's the green lines to match the other ones. You know, when this failed, how the other ones fail? And then there's my save. So it saved it, but notice how it continues recording again. So that's another big thing, is it will continually record anything you have on the screen. If it's a custom data list, it'll record just those however many PIDs. If it's the full data list, it'll record the full data list. I can scroll. It doesn't reset. It doesn't start over, anything like that. And it will continue to record from when I start until when I save, and even after I save. So it doesn't automatically stop it. It continues through that. Right? So those are some very useful data tools that we can use. All right, so let's go back. You'll also notice once I have that custom list set up, it is now my top of my list. So I can just go back in there, and it is going to go onto that custom list automatically. So I'm going to have my 8 PIDs there. The PID triggers will go away because that's on a time by time entering their basis. But we can see I got those 8 PIDs. All right, so very useful. It's been in the tool for a long time, but a lot of folks don't realize that it's there. All right, so let's back out of that. I'm going to use this car again here in a minute, but I'm just going to back out to my main menu. All right, so now I'm going to go over here, and we'll talk about the next thing. So the next series of hidden gems we're going to talk about have to deal with what we call data services. So these are the things that are up on Snap-on servers that come down to the tool as long as you have current software or subscription or data plan, depending on what tool you have. And then a current Wi-Fi connection, because of course this is pulling the data off the server. If I don't have a connection to the Wi-Fi, then it's not going to be able to pull the data off the server, right? So that's things like SureTrack, Fast Track Intelligent Diagnostics, and Snap-on Cloud, which we're going to talk about here next. So one of the things that goes to Snap-on Cloud is the pre-scans and the post-scans on the vehicle. So in this case, we're talking about pre-scan and post-scan. Now, this isn't necessarily exclusive, but the way that we lay it out and the way that we allow you to share this with your customers is kind of unique, because we have our own cloud service to store these and to send them along. I actually got a message from someone the other day. It's like, hey, I'm having difficulty setting up email on my scan tool. Is this something you can help me with, or is there another way to do it? So I said, hey, have you set the tool up on Snap-on Cloud? Because then you can go, it'll upload to the cloud, and then you can share it with your customers from there. You can email it, you can copy a link, you can even text it from your phone, right? So you have all those options, right? So we want to make sure we do a pre-scan to document when it needs to be repaired, right? So it's going to give us our yellow triangle if there's a problem, green circle if everything's good. And then post-scan needs to document that the repair has been completed. This is good for your customers to know what's the status of my vehicle. And then now that my vehicle's done, is it okay when it's done? And like I said, we can share those using your phone, your tablet, your laptop, PC, Mac, Linux, doesn't really matter. As long as I have a web browser that can access the website, it'll allow me in. Right? So that's one thing that deals with Snap-on Cloud, data services, and so on. The next thing that is available on a vast majority of our tools, like I said, pretty much any tool that is able to be updated at this point has at least some SureTrack functions that go along with it. Because I think the last scan tool we stopped supporting was the Modus Ultra. So that'd be anything Solus Edge, Modus Edge on forward has SureTrack access. So as long as you have Wi-Fi, as long as you have current software on those tools, it'll allow you to access it. So what is SureTrack? So it is, in short, it's the fastest way to find the problem, most often failed parts, and provides real fixes the first time, every time. So it is the fastest path to fix, and it's based on historical big data. That's the key point right there. Historical records, historical vehicle records, data. And there's lots of it. We do this by data mining repair records, right? So there's over 2.65, now over 2.7 billion repair events available for your access to come down to the tool. So, and they get updated pretty much monthly. So, I mean, there's maybe sometimes where it's not 100% monthly, but it's pretty much just about every month. They do a massive update with this, and that updates like some of the records. So they're mined for the 3 C's though: complaint, cause, and correction, right? What was the customer's complaint? What actually caused this problem? And then what corrected it in the end? Now on things like, on tools like the Solus Plus that I have in front of me, it will lay it all out on a page, right? So I have my graphical display of, based on mileage, what parts were replaced or what was done on the vehicle, top repairs, what repairs were done in order to fix this problem on this, for this example, P0300 code, right? So we can see based on mileage, what was done and what was the most common part at each mileage. And then we have our top real fix. And once again, this is based on complaint, cause, correction out of the repair orders. This is the number 1, and it counts how many times it was a confirmed fix. So in this case, 219 times for this particular fix. Down below, we have related real fixes. So it's going to give you a list of all other real fixes related to this, not just single code, but multiple codes as well. So if I have code combinations, that can really help, and that'll come into play here in a minute. I'm going to talk more about that. But having code combinations, if I have these 3 codes and this symptom on a car, more than likely that's going to fix the problem, right? I mean, obviously we want to check a few different things, but more than likely that's going to be it. So that'll be helpful. And then of course we have our troubleshooter that we've had since way back in the 90s. And that is a lot of, real life techs working on cars. Here's the tips that they've entered over the years for these particular problems. Also can give you code set criteria, things like that. So once again, requires current software and Wi-Fi connection. But if that's what you have, then you can access that. By the way, here I think is probably going to be one of the most hidden gems that we're going to talk about tonight, this next thing. Did you know that if you have a Snap-on scan tool registered to your Snap-on Tech account, which you would need to do in order to use Snap-on Cloud for uploads and also for security link, get into secure gateway vehicles. So all of those things, you need to have the tool registered anyways. So as long as that tool is in your account and it's on current software, however it's on current software, doesn't really matter, you can then go to shopkeypro.com, use that tech account credentials, so whatever your tech account is, username and password, and it will give you essentially a limited version of ShopKey, or really it's just the SureTrack aspects of ShopKey. So you've been seeing, if you've been watching my my OEM specific training I've been doing all year, I walk through these. Here's the number of repair orders. Here's the top 10s, right? All of that stuff's available to you if you have a current tool linked to your account. And you can go in and you can search. So it's going to give you things like your real fixes, your top repairs, your causes and fixes, your tips. It also gives you access to the community. So using that login, you can then log into the community. You can either ask questions if you're having trouble, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of people active every day on this. And it will give you examples from the community. Here's what I'm dealing with right now. And then do you have any recommendations for things that I can do for this, right? So that can be a big help. And you could also go in and answer questions if you have an answer for it, right? There's that whole community vibe, community aspect to it. So let's talk through that segment. So we're just going to kind of go back and forth here tonight. Hope you don't mind. But this is all stuff that people ask me about. I was like, well, how do I do this and how do I do that? Well, here we go. We're going to talk about these little hidden gems. So I'm going to go through a code scan on this just to get to some SureTrack data. All right, we've gone through the list. Okay. Now, one other thing before I get into that code, one other thing that you might not be aware of is this is our code scan, of course. It scans through all the different modules on the vehicle, tells you whether or not it's got a code or not, right? Just like pretty much any other scan tool. Also shows you, it gives you an indication whether it does not have a code or it does. Also from here, I can select a code and go get information on that. But also I can click on the module. So if I click on the word engine, it brings me into the engine. If I click on anti-lock brakes, it brings me into anti-lock brakes. All right, so a lot of folks think, oh, I have to back out and I have to go back in. You don't. It's all right from this page. So it does the same thing that you might be thinking of and talking about as far as scanning vehicles on other tools. It does the same thing, just doesn't have the pretty pictures, right? So if I go into PO101, it's going to download the content. Once again, we need to be connected to Wi-Fi and we need to have current software on the tool. And then we have our drop-down list here. Now, this is something that I showed this a couple weeks ago to a bunch of people that have worked at Snap-on for a very long time. And we were kind of going through like a refresher training with them. And I went and I just clicked on the code and I said, yeah, you can switch between the codes from here. And they're like, holy cow, didn't realize that you could do that. So if I had 50 codes on this car, I wouldn't have to go back and forth. I wouldn't necessarily even have to write them down. I can just flip and it flips. Flip again, flips again. Right? So if I have multiple codes, this makes it so much easier and saves so much time. And that is on Solus Plus, and then any of the tools that Intelligent Diagnostics would have that in there as well, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. So we have our results for our code. Now, like I said, we have the top repairs graph, which is going to have based on mileage. There's my mileage down there. And then the vertical is going to be number of occurrences. So it looks like at 125,000 miles, the largest number of occurrences for this top thing here, 45 times during that 125,000 mile. Now, also, if you look over here, that goes off the screen. I can't see the number. On non-Windows tools, they have this right here. On the Windows tools, it scrolls. But on the non-Windows tools, we have this right here. Click on that, gives us a graph. Click on it again, gives us the words and numbers. And then click on it a third time, brings us right back to it. Also mention the number one real fix. That's down here. So complaint cause correction. It's going to talk through it. So connected found codes PO101 and PO171. Went through, removed the mass airflow sensor, visual inspection, found no sign of debris. These test results verify the mass airflow sensor was faulty, and I skipped a bunch of stuff, but you would not skip a bunch of that stuff if you were reading through it. Now, this isn't necessarily the number one. It is the number one suspect, but it's not necessarily the fix, right? Because we could always have additional fixes on any problem on a car. So here we have our ranked fixes all the way from 72 to 1, right? So down there, the PCV valve happened to be the fix. All right, so it can be these things that are, if I've tried A, B, C, and D, let's try E type of thing. And then if I back out of that and go to my troubleshooter, it's going to give me, here's code set criteria for that. Here's a few tips and how it works. So that is SureTrack on the tool. Let's go and talk about SureTrack on the web. So like I said, if you have a Snap-on scan tool that has current software and it is registered to your Snap-on cloud account, your tech account, that you would need to do to access uploads, that you would need to use to access security link on the vehicles, use that same login, that same tech login. No, that's not the login I wanted, though. Just automatically saves. Hold on a second. Dang it, Google. Automatically save my login. All right, so let's try this again. I'm going to not do that. I'm going to type in here, test account. And then I'm just going to pull up my car. Hold on. Let me even show you this. This is even cooler, right? So we have Vinner plate too. So if I just plug in my plate, and yes, I know I'm putting my license plate out to the internet, but literally anybody can see it driving by. All right. And there we go. So there's all my information on this vehicle. So it's a 2011 Subaru Forester and 195,709 repair records we have, top 10 components, top 10 codes, top 10 symptoms, top 10 lookups. Right. So that is all available, and I don't need a ShopKey account for that. That's all available to you. So let's say, for example, I wanted to look at this #1 code, which is pretty high. CAT code on a Subaru, that's pretty common. EVAP, misfires, that's all pretty common stuff, right? But PL171, we'll go in there, and we can just go to the regular results over here, or we can go to the results combined with our top repair results. So let's say it was an oxygen sensor. It's going to come in here. It's going to give me real fixes, top repairs, causes and fixes, and tips. Let me go to the other one and just see if it's different. No, it's the same. Okay. So right there. So real fixes. There's all my real fixes from 361 down to 1. PO171, bunch of different stuff. Top repairs graph. It's going to look very similar to if I was looking at it on the scan tool, right? But in this case, if it gets kind of spaghetti down the bottom, I can click on these and I can turn them on and off, which is nice. If I wanted to kind of see what is that and it's kind of hard to see, I can turn them on and off, which is helpful. Causes and fixes. This is one of my favorite things, and this is another hidden gem. It's like hidden within the hidden gem. It's like hidden gemception. So this is codes with common fixes, code combinations with common fixes. So if I have a 420 and a 171, more than likely, 33 times it's an oxygen sensor. If I have these 3 codes, oxygen sensor again, 1578, a lot of oxygen sensors. Chassis codes, oxygen sensor. A lot of oxygen sensors. But on a 171, a lean code, that can be a lot of different things. But a lot of them are tying back to that O2 sensor. Okay? So there's multiple ways, of course, we can test that O2 sensor before we replace it. But being able to access this, I'm not sure how many of you would know that you were able to access this. I know I've mentioned it a few times, but it used to be a lot more difficult. You used to have an access code, and it would give you 6 months, and then you'd have to change the access code every 6 months. We made it a lot easier this year just by having that Snap-on tool with current software logged into your account. You can go in and you can access this. So here's just some tips. PO171, right? So all of that stuff is available, and I think that's pretty awesome that you're able to access all this stuff. Just to be able to, have that information. What are the top 10 problems? This crowdsourced information, if you will. Having that available to you, I think that's a really good value add for your Snap-on tool. Maybe just me, but I think that's pretty cool. All right, next category. This one's a short one, but this is service resets and relearns. So service resets and relearns is another function that's available on your Snap-on scan tool. It's available on anything with Fast Track Intelligent Diagnostics, as long as you have current software subscription or data plan, or a Veris Edge. So it's available on the Veris Edge as well. But any intelligent diagnostic tool or Veris Edge, as long as you have subscription or current data plan on. So what this does for us is it takes how many resets, relearns, or whatever are available on a vehicle now. Resets, relearns, recalibrations, that sort of thing. That's the word I was looking for. But how many of those are available on a car? Hundreds, right? So instead of having to go through into each individual module and find them, I can then go into service resets and relearns, and it lays it out by job. So did I replace the EVAP vent solenoid on this? It's going to give me resets and relearns for that. Active grill shutters, cooling fan, starter, fuel pressure adaptives, that sort of thing, right? It allows us to go in there. For example, oxygen sensor. I talk about that one a lot. Brings us in here, gives us more top repair data, gives us any related TSBs, and then it gives us any functional tests like bidirectional controls or these. And then the reset, relearn, what have you, might be in there as well, depending on what the configuration is. So that is just a way to make it a lot faster. So to give you an example of how that would make it, I'm going to pull up my Zeus here. I'm just going to pull up our little Tahoe here. Demonstration. They put it up here now. Oh. Now, on many Chevy vehicles, I don't remember exactly when it started, but it's definitely on this 2016 Tahoe, and I'm pretty sure it's on pretty brand new vehicles as well. They don't use a brake light switch. They use a brake pedal position sensor, they call it. So it kind of looks like a throttle position sensor, and it's got a little arm on it, and it tells what the position of the brake pedal is. And it sends that information to the body control module to control the lights, and it sends it to the ECM to disperse however it needs to throughout the rest of the vehicle. So if I were to reset that or relearn that, first of all, I need to know that I need to reset it in the engine and in the body control module, which you may not have known. I wonder how many folks watching knew they had to do that. But I would have to know that first. Secondly, I would have to go in engine and go to functional tests and find out where it is, and it must be in output controls. And then there's my brake pedal position sensor learn. I can go in there, hit learn, and it learns it, as long as the brake pedal's off. But then I would also need to know that I need to go into the body control module, which is going to be down here. Functional tests. Is it a special function or an output control? I'm going to guess output control. And then there's brake pedal position sensor learn there. It's going to give me the same deal. It's going to give me some data to go with it. Hit learn, learns it. That takes some time. I need to know to look in both. I need to know where to look when I am in both, because it might not be necessarily, if I'm not reading the repair information for sure, it might not be intuitive. Or I can go into service resets, go down to brakes. I did a brake pedal position sensor, so I replaced it. Maybe I need to relearn. Go in there, some bulletins, functional resets and calibrations. There's my engine. There's my body control module in the same place. So I can pull it from multiple modules if necessary. Now, just to show you that this is what GM says we need to do, I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to pull up repair information out of ShopKey. And we'll go down after repair and calibration. And then it says, yep. So navigate to the configuration resets menu of the BCM, reset it, go into ECM, reset it again. Right. So GM says we need to do this. All right. So I think that's worth its weight in gold right there. Having to save or being able to save time from having to go through. All right. That's that. Service resets. So you see how we're kind of filtering down and filtering down and filtering through the different tools as to what we're able to do. Here's what everybody can do. And then we're filtering down. Now we're at to fast-track intelligent diagnostic tools only. So that is Zeus, Triton, and Apollo series tools, anywhere from the D8s and the original Zeus all the way up to where we're at now, the Apollo Plus. So fast-track intelligent diagnostics builds off of SureTrack information with additional data. So it links problems to solutions in short, right? So it gives me a shortcut or a fast path to fix is what we say. So it's the fastest path to fix. Enables you to complete the repair quickly and confidently. It gives you everything you need on the screen, and it filters out what you do. Gives us filtered SureTrack. Gives us filtered real fixes, filtered TSBs, filtered smart data, filtered specialized functional tests, filtered specialized resets, filtered guided component tests, and filtered custom test meters. Only for the vehicle you're working on, only for the problem you're working on at that time, all on one screen. It gives you a repeatable diagnostic workflow. So how is that different from everything else on the market? Well, it uses that 2.65, now 2.7 billion repair events that I talked about with SureTrack. That's the SureTrack aspect of it. It also combines it with 356 billion data points. So that's PID data, known good and known bad vehicles. We also have the broadest vehicle and sensor connectivity on the market due to guided component tests, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit as well. And the most comprehensive OEM technical library due to the fact that we have ShopKey. So we can combine all this information into one place, and it gives us that information. It gives you a quicker way to diagnose a car. Now, could I look up all this stuff manually? Sure. Could I do all of this searching for all these different things manually? Sure. Could I filter down a PID list manually? Sure. Could I set PID triggers manually? Sure. You can do all that manually, but why not let the computer do it with one click? And by the way, if you don't like exactly what came back, you can always go and access the other stuff. talk about that in a second. Really, the way I like to think about it is it's a great filter, right? It takes all the noise and all the stuff that's going on in the car, 2,300 different PIDs, 654 TSBs, 2,400 codes, all that stuff filters out the noise and brings us down to one code at a time. We're going to work on one code at a time. One TSB for that code, 11 data parameters in this example, 6 functional tests, 10 component tests, and 2 real fixed tests. So I don't have to filter and function through all that stuff. Could I do it if I wanted to? Sure. You got time. I don't have time. I like saving time. So that's what helps out with that. So the Fast Track Intelligent Diagnostics workflow gives us that information, gives us the component tests, gives us the top repairs graph, gives me the TSBs and analytics, PIDs, functional tests, and SureTrack content, all specific to the vehicle and the code from that one little touch on the screen, gives me all that information within seconds. Downloads it from, once again, data services, and gives me that information in seconds. So let's flip over to my Zeus again. And we'll go in this time. Let's go to the Toyota again. Because remember what we got with the SureTrack with the Solus. This is going to build upon that. So once again, starts with a code. Don't have to do a code scan necessarily, but I would certainly suggest to do that, just so you can understand what's going on. There we go. Saved it to the cloud, saved it to the tool, hit diagnose, and there we go. So once again, we have our code switcher. And switch back and forth. In this case, we don't have any TSBs, but did that save me time? Yes, because now I don't have to look for TSBs that don't exist. I don't have to be going some other place and searching. Top repairs graph, just like we had in SureTrack. That is the SureTrack aspect of this. So it kind of melds them together. Then we have smart data. So if I go into smart data, what this has done for me is it automatically set a custom data list, like we talked about way at the top of the program. Set a custom data list based on known good and bad vehicles. Set multiple PID triggers automatically based on known good and bad vehicles and known good and bad vehicle data. There's a lot of different PID triggers on here. How long would that take me to figure out, A, what is the min and max values that I need to set it at? B, what list do I need to look at? So if I go into custom, we can see not every list has things selected. So if I go here, everything in black is selected, everything in gray is not. So that is all stuff you don't need when you're looking at a mass airflow code, right? But let's say for some example, I just wanted to put that electrical load signal in. Fine, click on it, you're done. Brings you right back to where you were. Now it's modified the list, it starts the list recording over. I can modify it to my will, but the computer gives you a starting point in seconds. And I know there's a lot of people out there that have access to this, but they don't use it. Maybe they don't know what it is and what it helps them with. So hopefully that helps you understand how that's going to help. Even if you don't like the list that comes back, that's fine. Go and change the list, but it gives you a starting point. And it sets all those PID triggers. How long would it take me to go through that list, go through and whittle it down to this many PIDs, and then set that many PID triggers? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. On that side, 15, 16, 17, 18. There's definitely over 2 dozen. I'm not going to count them all, but there's over 2 dozen PID triggers on here. How long would that take you? Because I know it takes me at least 30 seconds if I know what the min and max values are per PID. All right, so that is huge time savings if you think about it. All right, next one's going to be my filtered functional tests and resets. So based on how many dozens of functional tests do I have, it's going to bring me through, and here's the few that I need for this. If I want to see any of the other functional tests, they're right here. All right, I can go back there and I can access that full list, no worries. Gives me a starting point. Guided component tests, which we're going to talk more about in a minute. Here's what I might need for that. Oh, I want to look at something else, body electrical related? Sure, go in there. But it gives me that filtered list. Come down to the bottom, it gives me that filtered SureTrack content again. So 94 fixed its on this one. I go into my real fixes, it gives me my categorized lists. I go into my troubleshooter, it gives me my code set criteria. And then if I have a Zeus or Zeus Plus, I can go into my repair information. It's going to link directly to the repair information from the tool. So in this case, oh, not a hybrid, wrong engine. So you see it logged me in, it logged the vehicle in, and it did a search for that code. And now, since I have shop key, it goes in and it gives me my shop key stuff. Wiring diagrams, removal and replace, all linked to the tool. I don't have to go anywhere else. I can sit in the drive. I can do all this stuff from the driver's seat of the car if I want, or under the hood. It's all about saving time. All right, so let's see. What else do we have? All right, so that is SureTrack Intelligent Diagnostics. I got one more little gem for you. It's a couple gems rolled into one. And this one's available on all of our scope-related tools, or scope-enabled tools, should I say. That's what the title says on the screen, right? So Zeus, Verus, Modus, Triton, all the way back to the original Modus, all the way back to the Vantage Pro. I think those came out around the same time. But anyways, this has what we call guided component tests. So this is exclusive to any Snap-on tool that has a scope. And this gives us the pinpoint access to test components. The scanner is a really nice compass. It's going to point us in the right direction, show us where we need to go, but it's only showing us what happens after the fact. We need to be able to pinpoint where the cause is, and that's where the guided component tests will come in. Yes, it has a full scope. Yes, it has a full graphing meter, full digital voltometer, but guided component test is going to give me over 7.3 million tests available. It goes back to 1981. Across the board, all our manufacturers that we cover. And there's also classes built in. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So an example of the information that this gives me that we have compiled over many, many, many years, dozens of years. It tells me how to hook it up, where to hook it up, and what it should look like on the screen. Those are three of the biggest challenges when you're trying to test a component with a scope that doesn't have this, or a DVOM, or a test light, or anything. How do I know where to plug it in? What do those wires do? Where is the part? And what should I be getting? What is good? Does anybody have a known good pattern for X? I see that all the time on Facebook. If you have one of these tools, any of our Snap-on tools with guided component test, you probably have it in there. For example, on a signature test, here's an example of the signature test there on a crank sensor. There's the good one. There's what we see on the screen, and see if they match. And that's really all we need to do. Right. And it's super simple to use. It does basically everything except for plug it in for you. So I'm going to get out of this vehicle, and we're going to guided component tests. And the first thing I want to talk about before we go into a vehicle is going to be the classes. So we have power user tests. That's some preset, kind of generic, not vehicle-specific tests. We have features and benefits. It's going to give you like a walkthrough of the demo board, some accessory part numbers, things like that. And then how-tos, where the bulk of this information. So these are classes that have been written by some of our top technicians on staff. And it just goes through like 10 minutes on air, 15 minutes on air conditioning, 15 minutes on immobilizers, 15 minutes on hybrids. And you can just pop in there real quick. Let's say NOx emissions. Let's learn about that. So you can go in and it's going to give you a little chemistry lesson. It's going to give you a little thing about EGR valves, I guess, and a couple other things. I'm not going to read through it all, but you can read through it 15 minutes on a lunch break. And you can go through and, oh, now I know a little bit more about that. By no means a college course, but hey, it gets me started and it gets me to know the basics, right? So the 65 different categories of class in here, even down to like Snap-on automotive theory is going to give you a bunch of different things in there as well. TPMS, right? Learn about TPMS. How's that work? It's all available on the tool. All right. So you can see all the makes that we cover in here. Also goes back to 1981, like I said. So if I wanted to do like an 81 Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham, right? With a 5.7. I'm going to go in there and it's going to give me stuff on my carbureted engine, like a NOx sensor, vacuum sensor, HEI pickup coils, all sorts of different stuff. Like I said, all the way back to 1981 up to 2024 on some models. In this case, I want to look up my little BMW demo board that's here. I want to make sure the board's on. See, BMW goes up to 23. Back to 82. All right. So 2012. All different models we cover. 328i. And then the different engines. Going to choose that. And you see we have different systems. So these are systems we have data on to test. For tests. So let's say I wanted to go in the engine. And I wanted to check the crank position sensor. You can see all the other sensors and subsystems, even fuel system, that we can go into, but I'm going to choose the crank position. Component information is going to tell me how it works. So it's a Hall effect type sensor located in the left rear of the engine block below the starter motor. Sounds like fun to get to. It says the crank sensor is mounted on the left rear of the engine block. You must remove the intake manifold to gain access to the crank sensor. Very difficult to access. So we're going to give you information like that. We're going to show you what the connector view should look like. We're going to show you what the wires on that connector do. Number 1 is ignition positive. Number 2 is ECM negative. Number 3 is the crank position signal, right? And then it gives you an alternative location because we want to test it at the PCM actually. So there's connector M5, that's this one. And it's going to say pin 29 and 30, so that's somewhere in there. Also going to give you some tips down here. The bolt must be replaced with a BMW approved bolt. It's an aluminum torque angle stretch type of bolt. And it may snap if you're not careful. I've heard many horror stories about it. Go through everything else as a test. I want to see a signature test in this case because that's going to show me what it should look like. It says yellow to crank signal, black to ground. Come down here. There's what good looks like. Hit view meter. Click, click, buzz, buzz. It's going to automatically set the time. It's automatically going to set the voltage for me. And then I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to look at, here's the known good pattern. Here's the pattern I'm getting. Do they match? Other than the fact that they're upside down, yes. And the reason it's upside down is just the simulator puts it out that way. But that is a known good pattern for that. And that is what it looks like on a real live car. It would be the other way around, I'm sure. If you're missing a tooth here, you'd be able to see that. You could then combine the cam sensor with it as well. I have a couple videos on that, how to do that. So multiple different ways to do it. So that's guided component test. Now there's one more thing I'm going to show you before we get to questions and all that. I get asked about this multiple times a month, at least, if not more often. On a Windows-based tool, I can do multiple screens at the same time. So if I wanted to say, I don't know, change my RPM up and down or something on my functional test, and I wanted to see the result with the guided component test, I can do that. So see how I'm in guided component test, I can hit meter, makes it full screen, meter makes it a window. Once I have it in a window, we can leave, go to my scanner. In this case, I have my simulator running, so I can go do this. This one, I think. Yeah, close enough. So I'm going to go into engine, and I'm just going to pick one. And let's say I wanted to do a functional tests, actuator tests. Let's see. Maybe I want to kill an injector while I'm doing this. I don't know. You can do that. Key on, engine off. And then now I want to see the result. So once I have my scanner where I want it, before I start doing the test, but I have my scanner where I want it, I can come down here. I can pull up my scope, and there it is. I can then, since it's Windows, snap it to the right, snap it to the left, hit start. It'll run through the actuator test, and I'd be able to see what happened. Maybe it would slow down or something. Be able to see that on the screen. So that's another nice function to have that you may not have been aware of, or you may have heard about it and you didn't know how to do it. So that's how we do it. So that is our hidden gems for this week. You can also let me know in the comments or chat or what have you if you want to learn about some other stuff. Because I got a whole list. This has been about, 45 minutes worth of material. And there's always more to learn about. So definitely make sure you let me know if you do. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week before we get to questions and before we get to the big giveaway. That's right. If you joined us late, we are doing a giveaway for folks watching the live stream on Zoom, on YouTube, on Facebook. You also get another chance in the second viewing. Really, it's going to be until, let's say, call it midnight tonight, 12 o'clock tonight, Central Time, United States. But next week, we are talking about EVAP systems, operation and testing. So this is another one of our new or revamped or refreshed classes. So that'll be on EVAP systems next week. I know that is still one of the #1 codes that occur on vehicles out there. So I also know there's a lot of confusion around, well, how do I diagnose them? So join me for that. Hopefully you can get some tips and tricks. Same time and place as always, 6 and 9 Eastern. 6 p.m. class goes to YouTube. 9 p.m. class goes to Facebook. If you are watching on YouTube, please make sure you like and subscribe. It'll really, really help. Snapon.com/OT if you want to watch on Zoom. If you want to see any of the other topics in this series, anywhere from ADOS through our OEM-specific training series we've been doing this year, scan that QR code. It'll bring you to the page and subscribe you automatically, and then you can just go to the playlist for live training. You can watch these at your leisure. They're all 30, 45 minutes, somewhere along the lines of that. And once again, it's youtube.com/Snap-on Diagnostics. Also, do we have your email address? If we don't, well, you may not have heard about this class, for one thing, because we send out an email blast saying, hey, we're going to do a giveaway. And also other things like Tech Focus articles, SureTrack blogs, new product releases. Here's an example of a article on a stretch timing chain. How do I diagnose that, right? So all sorts of different things you can do and get access to new product releases. They do send out my schedule periodically from time, like monthly, I believe. So scan that QR code. That'll get us your email address, and then you'll start to be able to receive those. Also want to make sure I mention my buddy Keith, who also does free diagnostics training every Wednesday and Thursday. So Wednesday's on Zeus and Zeus Plus. Thursday's on Apollo and Triton Tools. It is at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central every week. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the tool, they're about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes long. First hour is basically scanner stuff and setup functions. So let's set up your Wi-Fi, talk about Snap-on Cloud, that sort of thing. All the way through scanner stuff, like I said. That's the first hour. Takes a break after that, about 5 minutes. Comes back and talks about the scope features of the respective tools. Very thorough class. Keith's been with us for over 30 years, so definitely worth your time and effort if you want to learn a little bit more about that. All right, with that, thank you. Thank you for 100. Hopefully 100 more, like Lobo says, right? But hopefully you'll join me next week for EVAP systems as well. So hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully you enjoyed learning about the little hidden gems on Snap-on scan tools. I'd like you to enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Oh, hold on a second. As I'm signing off, Ethan's saying ground tests. Yes. In guided component tests, there are ground tests in there. There's power tests and there's ground tests. It's not on every vehicle, but there are a large variety of them that do have ground tests on them. So for power and ground, it has the pinouts. And at the very minimum, you at least have ECM pinouts in there. Just pretty much the vast majority of the vehicles have at least ECM pinouts, if not power test and ground test as well. So those are in there for sure, inside guided component test. So thank you for that question again. And Craig says thank you. And with that, thank you for spending your time with me. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Have a good night and take care.